I joined Reliance Bank's board after they took the TARP money. I was asked, they took it, I was asked to join the board about 3 months later. And it was very evident to me that we had to do a capital raise. So they went around the directors, and I committed to $1.5 million in a capital raise, and I thought we were going to raise enough money to pay off the TARP. And in the end, we only raised $4 million, and I had by far the most money in there. And it just didn't sit well with me, and for that and a bunch of other reasons, I decided to leave the board. And I've lost $1.3 million on the investment. So I didn't get any special privileges, and for those that are familiar with banking regulations, you know, I had loans to the bank. You were encouraged to. You're a director. That's part of your duty, is to bring business to the bank. I was more heavily scrutinized than somebody coming in off the street. You know, credit score, ability for a down payment. Every loan I got was at least 25% down payment. I've got a very good credit score, and you have to show the ability to pay. No, not at all. I have a perfect credit history. You know, I made everything. I wire it the day it's due. I am like the perfect customer for a bank. And keep in mind that banks make money on loaning money, and they want to have a spread from what they can borrow from the Fed or in the cash needs and what they loan it out. So, you know, I was really, in my mind, by keeping those loans within that bank, I was helping the bank as well, because they made a profit off of it. There was a holding company. We had operations in Florida, Texas, Arizona, and St. Louis. I was on the St. Louis board. The holding company for the whole board took the TARP. And so I was asked to join that holding company after they took the money. You know, I think just like a lot of banks, you know, that were real estate heavy, you know, they got involved in Florida, Texas, Arizona. If we were just up to Missouri's assets, they would have done fine. But they got into some areas where all of a sudden net worths vaporized, valuations vaporized, and they needed to have more capital to cover up for those losses. I mean, the Fed of itself is in the black. They've made money on TARP. And, you know, Reliance is one of, I think, about 700 banks nationwide, thereabouts, that has not paid back yet. And we did it based upon when the regulators came to the board and said, you're not in a position to pay this back. You know, I thought we could maybe do a little bit of a time, but it was an all or nothing type payback. And so we weren't in a position to pay it all back. So based upon that, we said, we'll delay it. And okay, I left the bank shortly thereafter.
So the regulators were dictating the payment schedule?
Yes, they were.
Is that typical? I mean, I would
think
that...
keep in mind, if you don't have the money, it's hard to pay it back. And, you know, because they have losses on loans of real estate and things like that, they just didn't have the capital to pay it back. And there's a certain capital requirement for a bank. And so they were trying to maintain that capital requirement and just find the best way to get back to profitability, get back cash flow, and then pay back the TARP funds. But again, I have not been on the board for 1.5 years, so I don't know. Yeah, they took a lot of drastic measures to bring back profitability and to make up for the losses. I'm no longer a shareholder of the bank. Okay. So when Jay Nixon wants to call me a St. Louis banker, I had 0.4% of the bank, less than 0.5% of the bank. And it's just ludicrous for me to be called a St. Louis banker. Hey, I ran a plastics company. I was asked to join a bank board to help out. I invested in it. I lost. I moved on. I sold my shares.